up, everybody? My name is Amy, and this is the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. My name is Amy. Welcome to my show. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I do apologize for the technical difficulties yesterday. We were having internet trouble out here, and I didn't realize it. What's so strange is my Roku TV would work, but my iPad and my phone was not getting any internet. And so I had to end up calling them and getting a work order in, and they finally got it fixed and everything. So here I am. But it was a bit stressful. As you all know, this is the month of August. And August for me is a hard month. A lot of life-changing events happened in my life in August. And a lot of bad things have happened in the month of August. And because I was preoccupied at the beginning of the month with having my RV insurance due and my RV tags and stuff due, I was preoccupied with my budget and getting all that stuff paid and, budgeting my money and having enough money for groceries and everything for the month. And then all that happened with my daughter and her car accident and stuff, and I had to go to her house and take care of her and everything. So I kind of forgot about all the upcoming dates in August until over the weekend. And then yesterday, when I was fooling around trying to schedule this and then reschedule it and all of it, and I looked at the calendar and I realized those dates are here. Oh, Lady O, how are you? I'm so glad you came back and joined me today. I hope you can hear me okay. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay. I hope I'm not just sitting here talking with no sound. But it dawned on me yesterday, that, okay, good. It dawned on me yesterday that all those dates were bam, they're here. Over the weekend, I realized, that it was the anniversary date, for the death of my favorite singer, Janie Lane, the former frontman for the band Warrant, 80s band Warrant. Janie died in a motel room after a fight with his wife. He died from alcohol poisoning in a Comfort Inn motel room in California. And I'm a big fan of Janie Lane. Even though like Motley Crue and Poison are my two favorite bands from the Sunset Strip, I kind of look at Motley and Poison as like the Tupac and Biggie of the Sunset Strip. But Janie Lane is the most beautiful voice that ever walked the Sunset Strip. And it was he passed away on August the 11th. And so I was laid up all weekend listening to Warrant music, listening to Janie's solo music, watching old Warrant concerts and stuff on YouTube, and was just kind of drowning my sorrows and all that. But yesterday, when I was fooling around with scheduling all this crap, and I looked at the calendar, I was just like, oh shit. And it was in the month of August that I sold my house after living in this house for over 40 years. I sold my house, I bought my RV, and went out on the road in the adventure of glamping. And it hasn't quite panned out the way I had hoped it would or wanted it to. We had COVID happen, and so that stopped, being able to travel, and a lot of us full timers, had to find a place to go. And my friends and I, that I normally wintered with, we found this place, and we all moved out here. But now it's just me and my friend Michael left here, and the landlord moved back to Texas. So it's just us here by ourselves. But that was a big life-changing event for me to sell my house and go out on the road to the unknown, and start a new life. And my daughter got married, and just a lot of life-changing events. And then also in the month of August is when the infamous Alford plea went down in the West Memphis 3 case, which I was there for. I rode on the back of my best friend Kevin's Harley in the heat, August heat, Arkansas August heat, rode on the back of his Harley to Jonesboro for that Alford hearing. And oh my God, it rained, it was hot, humid as hell, and just it was awful. And that was the day that Damien, Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jessie Misskelley were released from prison after making an Alford plea. And we all know what an engraved injustice that was. And I think back to being there and standing there with Mark Byers, the father of Christopher Byers, and how angry he was, and just wanting justice, true justice for his son, his 8-year-old little boy, and his friends. And it was a mess. It was such a grave injustice what they did to the West Memphis 3, and we're still fighting it today. And I'm going to be talking a little more about what is currently going on in the West Memphis 3 case, and also comparing it with some current cases that are going on, and how DNA plays such an important part in that case, and as well as these other cases that I'm going to be talking about. Also, in the month of August, a friend of mine was murdered, and I was just barely 18 years old. This happened in August of 1988, and her husband was put on trial for it, and he was found guilty. I had to testify in the trial because I was one of the last people to see her alive. And there's been a lot of speculation about whether her husband was actually guilty and over the years, and I don't believe that he is guilty. I believe that he was wrongfully convicted for it now. And it's just a hard ordeal. Also, in the month of August, August 23rd will be 36 years that my friends Kevin Ives and Don Henry were murdered and left on the railroad tracks in Saline County, Arkansas, for dead. And there were several of my other friends that were murdered in connection with their deaths. I can't remember if it was my last live. Okay. Oh, to you. I mean, I'm sorry. Oh, Lady O, I appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging with me. If you want to pop over to Betty's live, that's fine. I did not know she was going live. I thought Betty was on the road actually, but I do appreciate you if you want to stay here and hang with me and listen to me talk about all this. But and I think it was my last live or the live before that, I spoke a little bit about my ex-boyfriend, Keith Coney, who was murdered in connection with Kevin and Don. And, that changed my life. And it is why you are sitting here watching me here on YouTube today. The murders of Kevin and Don are probably 75% of who you see today in me. It's probably it's like 75% of who I am today. And it's a hard thing for me to talk about. I have talked about it some. I've never done an actual podcast episode completely dedicated to talking about Kevin Ives and Don Henry because it is just so hard and emotionally draining. And my friend Griff, he always talks about how no closure means more money for these grifters out here who are living off the name of poor little Summer Wells. But no justice means no closure. And they say time heals all wounds, but when you have no justice, you have no closure. And it's hard to put things like that behind you and begin to heal. We will never see justice for Kevin Ives and Don Henry. I've accepted that. They'll get justice in the afterlife. The people that are guilty of their murder and the cover up and all that stuff. A lot of these people are dead. Some of them have been to prison for other crimes and whatnot. Some of them are big wigs still here in the state of Arkansas. So August is a very overwhelming month for me. Life-changing events and a lot of bad stuff, and it just it's stressful for me. So yes, tragedy changes us, and when you go through, I was 17 years old I'm 52 years old now, and I was 17. We were kids, and our friends were dropping off like flies. And we didn't know who was going to end up dead next. We were all scared to death. And we had no idea what was truly going on until, you know, all this stuff started coming out. And, you know, unfortunately, I got an early awakening to the horrors out here in the world, and, you know, government conspiracy, and, you know, big time drug dealers, Pablo Escobar, Barry Seals, who was a Colombian pilot, and, you know, and it's, you're 17, you're a 17-year-old carefree teenager, you know, smoking weed, drinking, going to hair band concerts, you know, Warrant and Motley Crue and Kiss and Slaughter, and, you know, all of them. And but to go through something like that is something that I don't wish on anybody. But it is a big part of me, and who you get out of me to this day. But so anyway, I wanted to talk about some things that are going on, you know, currently in the world of true crime. I have a couple announcements first. There is an ongoing search right now in Kingsport, Tennessee, for missing Layla Santinella, 21-year-old young mother, daughter, disappeared, and her family is frantically looking for her. And apparently, I guess they must have raided her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, someone close to her, raided their house. And I saw a lot of people, when that was going on, I saw a lot of people on YouTube trying to relate that to the Summer Wells case. And it had absolutely nothing to do with missing Summer Wells, who is also a victim that I sadly feel probably is not ever going to get justice either. Just like Kevin and Ives and Don Henry didn't get justice, just like we're still waiting for true justice in the West Memphis 3 case, you know. But anyway, it has nothing to do with Summer Wells, and there is a heavy police presence there in Kingsport. They are searching for Layla Santinella, missing out of Kingsport, Tennessee. I hope they find her. I don't think that it's going to end well. I don't mean to sound like Debbie Downer, but I've been through so much that I'm just the type of person that I prepare for the worst, but hope for the best, you know. But I've learned not to set myself up, you know, for failure, for heartbreak, you know, things like that. I don't expect this to end well. So, also, Ethan Crumley, his Miller hearing will start back. It's supposed to start back up on August the 18th. I reached out to Ethan's attorney because I didn't understand why the Miller hearing was postponed. I was afraid something had happened to Ethan. They only had like one witness left to testify, and then they just ended it and postponed it. But I did not hear back from Ethan's attorney. I didn't expect to. But you know, hopefully Ethan's all right, and this will start back up on the 18th. And we will see whether or not they are going to sentence Ethan Crumley to life without parole, or if they are going to give him a number of years. The big question is, can he be rehabilitated? I hope so. So, well, let's get into talking about the cases at hand. I'm going to talk a little bit first about Harmony Montgomery and Adam Montgomery, because the case with Harmony and the charges against her father, Adam Montgomery, DNA isn't, as of yet, playing a big role in that case as it is with the Idaho 4, Jonbenet, Ramsey, and the West Memphis 3 case. So, but in the situation with Harmony Montgomery, her remains have not been found. She has been determined to be deceased. She has been determined to have been murdered by her father, Adam Montgomery. But he claims he's innocent, and you know, we have not found Harmony's remains, so this will be a trial with, you know, no body. And I don't know what physical evidence and forensic evidence they have against Adam. If you have read the statement from his wife, Kayla Montgomery, on what she claims happened to Harmony Montgomery, it is completely ungodly, sickening, and disgusting. But as you all know, Adam was convicted on weapons charges and stuff recently, and he got anywhere from like a 35-year to 75-year sentence. And I think some of it depends on whether or not he accrues good behavior in jail. I don't expect good behavior from Adam Montgomery in jail. He's a career criminal. And so, you know, he's definitely going to serve some time for those gun charges and stuff. And it's yet to be seen, you know, whether or not he will be convicted for the murder of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. He stood up at his sentencing hearing for these gun charges and asked the judge to base his sentencing strictly on those charges and not on whether or not they think he murdered his daughter and that he did not murder his daughter, and blah, 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 blah. And he looks forward to his day in court to present his evidence that says he is not guilty. So I hope that they have more than just Kayla's word, that they can prosecute him for Harmony's murder. But obviously he's never going to admit to it. He's not going to tell us what he did with the body. So, you know, I'm not going to hold my breath on that either. I'm just going to, for now, be satisfied with the fact that he's going to spend quite a number of years in jail for just being a douchebag. Basically, he's a career criminal. He's a drug addict. He's evil. He's a bastard. Lock him up and throw away the key. You should have done it a long time ago. Should have never even gave that child to him. Plain and simple. But, you know, DNA will play some factor in this case, but not the way that it's going to be in the other cases. So, but I wanted to, you know, just talk a little bit about it and mention and let you all know, for those of you that don't know, that he did get a pretty hefty sentence for those gun charges and stuff. So, oh, lady, at 17, our brain is not fully developed. And yes, and old lady, oh, you got to realize that at 17, I was a completely broken child. I had suffered from depression since I was a child. My parents' divorce and my stepmother, and how she, you know, drove the wedge between me and my father and not being able to have a relationship with him. And then my stepfather was Satan in tennis shoes, and he abused me, he abused my mother. You know, I was bullied at school and all kinds of stuff. So by the time I was 17, I was a completely broken child anyway. And then to have all that stuff happen back to back the way it did, I mean, just imagine being 17 years old and murder after murder after murder of your friends. And, you know, and then the fall, almost a year to the date of Kevin and Dawn's death, in August 23rd, 1987, August 17th of 1988 is when Sherry was murdered, and her husband went on trial for all that. And I testified in that trial. And, you know, I can't remember what happened yesterday, but I can tell you every detail of sitting up there in that witness box, and I can tell you what I was wearing, and you know, and everything. It's just crazy. John Pearl, what are you doing here? How are you doing? Tell Lisa I said hi. I haven't seen you guys in such a long time. It's good to see you. Hope y'all are doing well. So anyway, so let me talk a little bit about, get into talking about DNA. Demons and angels, because that's what we've got here. We've got a beautiful little girl named Jonbenet Ramsey who was found murdered in her home. We've got 3 8-year-old little boys who were found dead in a drainage ditch in West Memphis, Arkansas. And we've got 4 beautiful college Idaho students who were brutally murdered by a man they did not even know, named Bryan Kohberger. And DNA is a big issue in their cases right now. We've got the Idaho 4 case. We've got Bryan Kohberger, who stands accused of murdering Madison Mogan, Kaylin Zalvez, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle in their off-campus home at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. And the way that they captured him was through DNA. There was DNA left on a knife sheath in the bed with Kaylee and Madison, and evidence led them to Bryan Kohberger. And in order to completely, you know, attach him to this, they had to do some undercover work. And that meant going through the family trash and obtaining a DNA sample and using genealogy, oh, spit it out, Amy. Genealogy DNA, they were able to prove that the DNA on the knife sheath left at the crime scene was that of Bryan Kohberger. And his defense is challenging that. The genealogical stuff is new to the world of DNA and new to the world of solving cold cases and whatnot. A lady by the name of Colleen Fitzpatrick, she's the one that kind of started all this. and she has solved cases. She was able to find the family of a little boy that died on the Titanic and find his extended family and give him a proper name and, you know, burial. And now his family, he actually has a family, even though this child's been dead for 100 years. I mean, this kid died on the Titanic. But Colleen Fitzpatrick is such an amazing woman. I've talked with her on some other cases and stuff. And this whole new genealogical thing is amazing. But of course, the defense wants to know the method in which they used to do all this, and that there was other DNA profiles came from the crime scene at 1122 King Road. Now, I have to believe that the Moscow police, the FBI, and all them, that they worked those other DNA profiles as well and determined that those belonged there. Those DNA profiles of whoever they belonged to had reason to be at the 1122 King Road residence. Brian Kohlberger, however, his DNA had no excuse for being at that crime scene. And the fact that his DNA was found on the, quote, murder weapon, basically, which was the sheath in which the knife he used, you know, that it wasn't like it was just found on the sink or the toilet or somewhere. You know, his DNA was on the murder weapon. So talk yourself out of that one, Brian Kohlberger. And then we have DNA in the John Ramsey case. We've had this mysterious DNA that was found in her underpants that they've never been able to match. And it's come back up in the news, this whole Gary Oliva guy who claims to have been the person that killed Jonbenet Ramsey. And it's all come back up in the news. And Gary Oliva is not new to this case. They've known about Gary Oliva from the very beginning. But because Boulder had their sights set on John and Patsy Ramsey, or Burke, Jonbenet's little brother for that matter, as being who killed Jonbenet, you know, they've just not done a whole lot of pursuing of anyone else. So, but now we've got this situation where Boulder has never ran that DNA. They've never been able to find a match. And so now, after what, Jonbenet died in, was it 96? Not 90. God, so much happened in the damn 90s, y'all. And we need to do the genealogy thing now with this DNA profile that they found on Jonbenet. There is claim that DNA profile was ran against Gary Oliva a long time ago and that it didn't match. But I don't know how much I believe that. Boulder police, you know, throughout this whole case has been so shady, and they've had their sights set on the Ramsey family for so long that, you know, I just don't trust it. But we need to find out who killed Jonbenet Ramsey once and for all. That is an unsolved case. Just because Boulder PD thinks that John and Patsy did it, or Burke did it, or whatever, they've never proven it. They've never gone to trial. They've never been charged or anything like that. So this is still an unsolved case. And once and for all, work that DNA profile. Do the genealogy testing on it. Let's find out once and for all who that DNA profile belongs to and see if this person had anything to do with Jonbenet's death. And that's what her family wants. That's what her father is still fighting. Her older brother, John Andrew, they're still fighting. They're fighting. They're wanting Boulder to do this genealogy testing on this DNA profile and figure this shit out once and for all. And you know what? If it leads to the Ramsey family, then it does. But you got to run it. You got to do it. This child deserves justice. And falsely accusing her parents with no proof and her little brother with no proof for years on end is wrong. And then in the West Memphis 3 case, we have a situation where the people who were convicted in the case are now out of prison. They got out of prison on an Alford plea. And an Alford plea means that, yes, I acknowledge that the state has enough evidence against me to try and even convict me for this crime. I maintain my innocence. The Alford plea is no resolution. It's a no resolution plea. And Damien is fighting to clear his name. The only reason why he agreed to the Alford plea was to get off death row. Arkansas would have done killed Damien Echols had it not been for Johnny Depp and Pearl Jam and Natalie Maines and oh gosh, my mind just went blank. Johnny's old girlfriend from Stranger Things. And you know, just so many people, Metallica, you know, so many celebrities got involved in that case because hi, I'm Team Summer, how are you? You know, so many celebrities got involved with that case because so many of them could relate to Damien and what happened to him and him being falsely accused of being a satanic worshiper and, you know, all this crazy stuff because he was goth and listened to heavy metal music and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it was all blown way out of proportion and so silly. But I feel as though, you know, because the Alford plea allows Damien to maintain his innocence, even though he acknowledges the state, you know, has evidence against him for this crime, that he should be able to still fight to prove his innocence. But when he approached the courts with trying to get new DNA testing done with the MVAC, in his case, you know, they lied to him. They told him the evidence was lost, and they told him it burned up in a fire, and then it miraculously appeared, you know, after they got caught lying their asses off. Mara Leverett proved they were lying their asses off. So they finally had to miraculously find it all. And then so he gets to court, and Judge Tanya Alexander says, well, you don't qualify to get this DNA testing stuff done because you're not in prison anymore. Really? If Damien were still in prison, he would be dead now, because a few years ago, Asa Hutchinson decided to go put a bunch of people to death suddenly because the medication that they used to put you to death was about to expire. So he just up and decided to execute a bunch of people who were on death row suddenly So this medicine stuff got used, and Damien came back for that and fought to try to get it stopped, but they didn't. They ended up executing, I believe it was 3 people in 1 week, and it didn't go well. And Damien would have been one of them. I have no doubt in my mind. But he did come back to Arkansas to try to fight it. Him and I think Johnny Depp did. It was either him and Johnny or him and Eddie. I can't remember. Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. So he's appealed it to the Supreme Court, and and they're in favor of him, but they're still trying to fight it. And one of the things that they're trying to fight is they say that the MVAC method is not foolproof or whatever. And that's the problem that we get into in these cases is the methods used, such as the genealogy method and determining that, and this new MVAC method. You can do your research about it and Google MVAC and read how it's all done. But there's controversy involved. There's controversy involved in DNA profiling, period. We saw it in the OJ case. They fought all the DNA evidence against OJ in that case through like cross contamination, because Mark what's his last, Mark Fergan or whatever the hell his name was a racist, and the LAPD were racist, and they were just trying to nail OJ, and they planted evidence and all that kind of. So they fought all the DNA evidence against OJ through those methods. And what's so sad is that is what weighed very heavily on the heart of Robert Kardashian, Kim, Khloe, Kourtney Kardashian, Robert Kardashian's father, was that there was all this blood and DNA evidence, and with Nicole and Ron's blood and stuff. And, so that poor man died, wondering, did I just get a guilty man out of, off a double homicide? It wasn't no sweat off OJ's back. He didn't give a damn. But poor Robert Kardashian, lived and died with that heartache of not knowing whether his best friend killed his wife and her friend or not, and it's sad. But I just cannot stress how important this DNA evidence is, and it being used for the greater good, for justice, and for conviction and stuff. And Brian Koberger is going to have to find a way to how did your DNA get in at this crime scene? And there's a lot more. I know that there's a whole lot more against Brian Koberger than just that DNA, but I hope that the jury can see what, there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to me sitting here talking to y'all, but there's pros and cons to everything. And I just feel like we need to look at the pro side more and concentrate less on, the con side of it and whatnot. And, you guys, I'm going to turn my camera off for just a minute, if you don't mind. Okay. this whole thing with Jonbenet and with the West Memphis Three, and even Brian Koberger. First of all, I don't want any innocent person going to prison. I've done been through that. I fully believe that Damien, Jessie, and Jason were falsely convicted. And, I do believe so far that Brian Koberger is guilty. But you know what? I reserve the right to change my mind after the trial goes down and after all the evidence is presented. That's what happened in the West Memphis 3 case. We all assumed that the police had the right people. We all kind of assumed they were guilty. Even Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky from HBO, when they came here to film the Paradise Lost videos, they came here thinking that they were doing a documentary about 3 teenage Satan worshipers that killed these 3 little boys in a satanic cult. And it wasn't until they got here and started filming the trial and started hearing the evidence that they were like, wait a minute, you know what? I'm not so sure these kids are guilty. And so began, the crusade to decide whether or not they were truly guilty. And so I reserve the right to change my mind, about Brian Koberger. But Brian, you're on trial. You're convicted of murdering 4 people. Do you understand the significance of that? So they're going to be. This is full on cavity search, dude. They're all up in your grill. And whatever they have to do, no one's trying to railroad you for a crime you didn't commit. Unlike the West Memphis 3, where they were trying to railroad the 3 weird kids in West Memphis for this horrific crime. Yeah. No one's trying to railroad you, dude. You're guilty and you know it. You know you're guilty. If he ain't, he's. Now, I don't know. That guy's creepy. And I just don't. I think he's been preparing for this for a long time. And he did his damnedest to try and completely sever himself and not leave any kind of evidence and stuff behind. But unfortunately, he did. And, the DNA evidence is not all they got against you, dude. You were seen, you were tracked, and God knows what else we don't know evidence that they've got against you. So you've got quite a bit of explaining to do, is all I'm saying. And that's what you're going to be going to trial for, is to explain yourself. So let me see you talk your way out of this one. I hope that they don't find anything wrong the way they like they did in the OJ case, and they I hope that Ann Taylor is not, going to be able to get like the DNA and stuff thrown out under the methods that they obtained it from, through, digging through the family trash, and which is public property. Once you put your trash out on the sidewalk, it is public property. Learn that. Why do you think the dude they arrested him with gloves on, picking through the trash? Like, unless you're a germaphobe like Howie Mandel, why are you at 3 a.m. in the morning going through your family's trash thousands of miles away from the crime scene on the opposite side of the United States? We're talking about this happened in Moscow, Idaho, and his parents live in somewhere in Pennsylvania, you know, clear on opposite sides of the coast, and you're wearing gloves and shit, and 3 a.m. in the morning digging through the garbage and stuff when SWAT blasts through your house and arrests you. Like, unless you've got some kind of diagnosed germophobia issues, then, you know, I'm just saying. Also, in the Jonbenet Ramsey case, you know, the stuff about Gary Oliva has all come back up, and Gary Oliva, you know, is not new to the Jonbenet Ramsey case. He's been a suspect for many, many, many years. Especially when you put when you put it in the neighbor's trash. Like, why are you putting your shit in the neighbor's trash? Is yours full? You know, I mean, that's, unless you ask their permission. Hey, my trash can's full. Still got 2 bags. Do you mind if I throw them in yours? You know, maybe. But that wasn't the situation. That dude was trying to hide evidence, or trying to, you know, dispose of evidence and things in a sneaky and suspicious manner. So, you know, please, Brian, explain yourself as to why you did all that crazy mess. But also, in the Jonbenet Ramsey case, we had this issue with Gary Oliva and his handwriting. You know, there was a 3-page ransom note left in the Jonbenet Ramsey case, which was written from inside the house on a notepad belonging to Patsy and an ink pen, which, you know, seemed suspicious, and also the police felt pointed evidence towards the family. But Gary Oliva has maintained contact with an old high school buddy, and he has written him letters, and he's called this guy on the phone. He's confessed to killing Jonbenet and confessed to hurting and doing terrible things to a whole lot of other children and stuff. Hey, Wandering Orphan, how are you? Good to see you. But anyway, so I'm not a handwriting expert by any means, but I grew up on that little game, you know, where you had the 2 pictures next to each other, and it says what's missing, you know, from one picture of the other, you know, what the difference, spot the difference. You know, that game's been around forever. It was in the, you know, newspapers, and now you see it online and stuff. You know, spot the difference. And I love that game. Been playing it for years. So it's not hard, you know, to sit down and study handwriting and see similarities and or differences or and whatnot. And I actually did it myself, and I printed off the ransom note, and I printed off letters from Gary Oliva and looked through them, and it wasn't easy to do, because the ransom note from the Ramsey house is written in print, but it's written correctly, like capital letters and small case letters, you know, written sentences, periods, paragraphs, you know, that kind of thing. It was, you know, written the way it should be. However, Gary Oliva's letters today are all written in capital letters. So it was really a challenge to look at the ransom letter and look at his handwriting. And people's handwriting changes over the years. my handwriting looks just like my mother's now, as opposed to how it did, growing up in high school, even in my 20s and my 30s. And truly, depending on how I feel at the moment that I'm writing something, it may be completely unlegible chicken scratch, or it may be, neatly written. So, but it was a challenge to look at these, to look at all this and pick out the similarities. But I'll I'm going to turn my camera back on and kind of just show y'all what I've got here a little bit. So let me, okay. I can't do it on my iPad, so I'm going to have to kind of do it the old-fashioned way, the ghetto way, and show y'all just some of the similarities. Okay, let me get everything. All right, so this is a blown up version of the ransom letter here, and some of the capital letters, the M, you've got the R in Ramsey, the L in listen, and the C in carefully. And you all can do this exercise yourself if you have a printer and stuff. You've got the Y here, you've got the capital T here, you've got the zeros in 118,000, which are also, zero is an O, basically. But see how in the ransom letter, like I was saying, you've got, it's written properly. You've got capital letters and then the smaller case letters and stuff. But here, a blown up sample of Gary Oliva's handwriting here. You see how he, see if y'all can kind of get a good, little bit better look at this. It's all written in capital letters, so you have to do some comparisons. And his L's are spot on. Okay, you've got the L in listen. Listen carefully. The L in listen. L in realized. You've got the L's in all. L in land. His L's are spot on. His R's, the R in Ramsey. You see the R's in horrible crime. And I apologize for any of the god-awful stuff. If you're seeing any of the god-awful stuff that he's saying in these letters, I apologize. But the R's, his R's are spot on. Spot on. The O's, they're spot on. But like I said, this was difficult to do because, he now writes in all capital letters as opposed to the ransom letter where, things are written in smaller case. Let's see, you have his W's and his M's. Let's see, let me look here. His S's are spot on. His B's, I mean, there's so much here that is spot on. Exact matches. And even Vinnie Politan had some handwriting experts on his show, and they even determined that, you know, there is a lot that is spot on, is a spot on match for Gary Oliva's handwriting. So, you know, we need to truly sit down and look at Gary Oliva as the suspect, you know, we need to sit down and look at him hard, you know. Like I said, he claims he did it. Now, Mark John Carr, you know, tried to claim too that he was there when Jonbenet died, and that was determined to not be true. Mark Carr is just one sick individual. Oh God. Some of the things I've read from that man is just truly sickening. The most sickening stuff you've ever heard in your life. And that man should not be on the streets. Gary Oliva damn sure shouldn't be on the streets. I mean, the things that he is saying in these letters, and is just horrible. You know, please don't hate me. I'm sorry I turned scum. But even when you first met me, I told you how I wanted to kill children. It's just that the one death I'm being executed for was accidental. When I met Jonbenet, she took away that horrible craving to kill kids that you know me for. She changed me into a new person. But it's okay. I've killed so many children, I've lost track. Let that sink in a minute. When he sits here and describes, I had already become, but I stupidly let her die. And from there, I just degenerated into an even more evil person than I was. I just gave up and didn't care once I realized she was dead. If I had only paid attention, we would have a family now and be living on a private island. Instead, I let the one I loved die in my arms helplessly, watching the life drain from her eyes as all light went out. This is a grown man talking about a 6-year-old little girl. Sickening. Sickening evil. Just, oh, I'm going to wash my mouth out now after this live's over with soap and Listerine just from reading this. It's sickening. Absolutely sickening. So this man does not deserve to be out on the streets. And he's coming up for parole. So it's time to look at this man hard for the murder of Jonbenet Ramsey. And you know what? If he wants to admit to it and say he did it, then I say lock him up for it. You know what? I don't even care anymore. Because anybody that's sick enough to even say this kind of stuff, if they really didn't do it, has issues and don't need to be walking the streets. Yeah, he's in prison, but he's to my understanding, he's up for parole. Going to be coming up for parole pretty soon. But you know, I mean, this guy claims that he has killed so many children he lost track. But I don't know what children he claims to have hurt or killed or whatever. You know, we need to here DNA comes to play again. let's do we know if the DNA profile that was found on Jonbenet's body, what has Boulder done with it? I'm not really even sure. But have they run it against? Have they entered it into a database where there might be a hit from another case? Maybe DNA matches in another case, or are there cases out? There's so many cases out here, especially sexual assault cases, where so many RAPE kits have not been tested and stuff like that. Law and Order SVU, Mariska Hargitay, who I'm a huge fan of, they did a whole episode actually on SVU about the backlog and stuff in a lot of rape cases and stuff. And what has Boulder done to how much have they done to try and see if the DNA from Jonbenet's case matches any other cold cases, or have they ran Gary Oliva's DNA to see if it matches any cold cases? I just can't trust what all they have and haven't done in the Jonbenet Ramsey case. The Wandering Orphan, he's thinking he wants to. Yes, Mike said that he's never wanted contact with Gary and believes wholeheartedly that he has done. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that guy, he and he reported it to Boulder police very early on and was ignored and stuff. So I'm glad it's all coming back up 20 something years later, but we still have an unsolved case, and we still have a little girl who deserves justice, and we need to find her killer. And so it's time to do it. It's time to do this and find out and figure out once and for all, and get justice in these cases. Damien Echols deserves to, and Jason and Jessie, they deserve to be able to clear their name and prove that they didn't kill those 3 little boys in West Memphis. And let's find out who did. Let's find out once and for all who did. Who did. That's what I'm saying. DNA is such a powerful thing, and it can bring justice. And the courts and shit and lawyers want to play around with it and tool around with it like it's bullshit and fight against it and stuff. But this isn't your life. When it becomes your life, then maybe you got something to say, but you've got people here who are trying to prove their innocence, like Damien, Jason, and Jessie. You've got people here who were trying to prove are guilty of a crime, and we have DNA evidence against them and stuff, and we got a situation where we've got this DNA profile with Jonbenet that we can't find a match to it, and so it's time to do something. Oh Lord, you're going to get me going. I still harass the governor. Good. I love you, Wandering Orphan. You harass them as much as you want to, because believe me, I have pounded the steps of the Arkansas State Capitol too many times that I care to even talk about. Yeah. And dealing with the governor's office is a mess. And we here in Arkansas, we've just continued for over 30 years to see so much injustice here in Arkansas, with the murder of Kevin Ives and Don Henry, and the West Memphis 3 murders, and getting true justice for Christopher and Stevie and Michael, and determining whether or not the 3 who who were convicted, are guilty or innocent, you know. It's just, like I said, between Kevin and Don and the West Memphis Three, and you know, and all the stuff that's gone on over the last 30 something years here in Arkansas, is a big part of who I am today and why I am the way I am, my personality, why I think the way that I think. And you know, I've just seen so much horrible shit and been through so much horrible shit and seen so much cruel injustice that I'm gonna fight to my deathbed. You're never gonna shut me up, especially about those two cases. You're not gonna shut me up till I'm dead. So, but you know, we're and it's still an ongoing battle, unfortunately. It's just sad. So, hi, Phyllis Davis. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to have you in. So, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have anything they want to mention or talk about, or, like I said, have any questions regarding the West Memphis 3 case, Jonbenet Ramsey, the Idaho 4, or Adam and Harmony Montgomery? Does anybody have anything they want to mention, ask, talk about, or whatnot? Wandering Orphan, I'm really glad to hear that you are a supporter of harassing the government here in Arkansas. I like you even more now. Anytime he shares progress or new success, I comment and blast him on, when are you going to get those 6 young boys? All right, exactly. Yeah, they're still fighting it, you know. They and new news, by the way, Wandering Orphan, new news. The judge now has recused himself, or has recused herself from Damien's new appeal with the MVAC and the new DNA testing, because the Supreme Court ruled in favor. Now the judge has recused himself. So now we got to find another judge. And that's the problem, is nobody you say West Memphis 3 case, or you say Kevin Ives and Don Henry in the state of Arkansas, and people are like, get the fuck away from me. I don't want nothing to do with that shit. The judges, attorneys want anything to do with it, because they know what they did. They know they railroaded those kids for that crime. You know, we all know who murdered Kevin Ives and Don Henry, but they continue to be protected. And it's because of ego. It's because, and it's the same thing in Boulder, Colorado. It's about ego. And they don't want to have to say, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I'm sorry I accused you of a crime that you didn't commit. I'm sorry I put you on death row for a crime you didn't commit. I'm sorry I accused your wife, battling cancer, of murdering her daughter. You know, things like that. But you know what? Until it's you that's being accused of these kinds of crimes and stuff, and you're trying to fight for your innocence, you ain't got a leg to stand on. This whole arguing, you know, of what's right and what's wrong, and you know, the pros and cons and stuff, it's just a matter of them not wanting to admit that they were wrong. And you know, I was watching something yesterday, an interview with a detective from the Kevin Ives and Don Henry case, and just lying his ass off, just sitting there lying his ass off. And y'all don't want to know the language coming out of my mouth. It's so, it just infuriates me. And I'm bitter and I'm angry, and I want justice. You know, no justice means no closure. And you can't put this stuff behind you. You know, it's been 36 years now that Kevin and Don were murdered. It's been over 30 years now of the West Memphis 3 case. And it's still going on. No justice means no closure. And that's just what is so tough to deal with. And every year when all these anniversary dates come up, I just get bitter and angry all over again. It's just sad. You know, we got to do better with our justice system. I know our justice system isn't foolproof. We see guilty people walk free. We see innocent people convicted, you know, and then we see people who are convicted of crimes and they get little to no time or probation or some after probation, you know, and stuff. And here you got career freaking criminals like Adam Montgomery, who should have been locked up a long time ago and thrown away the key. But no, they keep letting them out and then giving their kids. And then, you know, it's just a sad world we live in. Very, very sad world. We've got a duo, 10 of men abducting women in our area. Food Hill. They tried taking me to, oh my God. You know what? And being the victim of a crime like that and being able to tell about it, that shit changes you too. And I've had somebody tried to kill me one time. A guy that I did not want any involvement with, and he was jealous and yeah, tried to kill me. Won't admit to it, but I know it was him. And you know, so yeah, that kind of thing can change you. Definitely, you're not ever, and I never got justice either. You know what? I never got justice either. They never did. They didn't investigate anybody but me for trying to kill my own self. And isn't that ridiculous? Like, Jesus, if I'm going to take my own life, I'm going to do it in a lot less painful way than burning to death in my house. This guy set my house on fire, poured gasoline on my roof, and set my house on fire because he knew that I took sleeping medication that knocked me out. He had even mentioned it. So, yeah, I know who did it. There's exactly. Yeah, I got lucky that somebody on their lunch break at 3 a.m. in the morning who worked at a nursing home over close to my house happened to drive by and see my roof on fire and called the fire department. We were sound asleep. And I wake up to the fire department kicking in my door. And just reeking of gasoline and stuff. And then I found beer bottle taps on my sidewalk the next day. And that's how I knew who it was. I knew what had happened. I know what you're saying. I have a lot of, sleep issues too. That's something I've suffered from since I was a child. Is I've suffered from nightmares, and which has caused me a lot of anguish and stuff. And but people don't understand that kind of thing until something happens to them, and they're they just don't get it. But it's a crazy world we live in. It's scary. And I the just the and don't anybody here think that I'm talking about y'all, that I'm saying y'all are bad people or anything like that, but I feel that just the general mood of people nowadays is that people just don't give a damn. People are all just like wrapped up in their own crap, and they just don't care about anybody else but themselves. And people are going to do whatever they have to do to get what they want. And if that means taking somebody else's life or whatever, then so be it. They don't care. And I just feel like the mentality of the world today is so much worse than what it was. We've definitely lost our way since 9/11. 9/11 kind of woke us up and brought us back together, but I feel like we have lost our way again, definitely. Yeah, it's only going to get crazier. I fully believe we're watching Revelations play out. I don't know how religious any of the rest of you are, but I feel that we are seeing the end times, and we are seeing seeing Revelations play out. It's not necessarily going to go down like Chad Daybell predicted it was going to, but I don't think Chad Daybell is going to be the one to lead me to the promised land. I'm going to get my own self there. It ain't going to be Chad Daybell, that's for sure. So like I said, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to, bring up or talk about or mention or whatever? I'm getting ready to wrap up for the day. I've got a lot of stuff I got to try to get motivated to do. I need to do some laundry and whatnot. So, well, if nobody has any questions or anything they want to discuss, I think I'm about ready to wrap up. Like I said, I just wanted to really, dive into this whole, DNA thing and talking about, these cases and how they all relate to each other, and how important DNA is, and how important it plays a part in people getting justice and whatnot. Nothing is foolproof. There's pros and cons to everything, but I feel like in the name of justice and in the name of proving guilt or innocence of a crime, we have to look at the pro side of everything, because I don't think Moscow PD is out to railroad Brian Kohlberger for a crime that he didn't commit. There's plenty of evidence that proving that he committed this crime, and we've got this unresolved DNA and stuff in the West Memphis 3 case, this unresolved DNA in the Jonbenet Ramsey case, and we need to get to the bottom of it once and for all. And let's get some true justice. And Wandering Orphan, hey, keep doing what you're doing, because that harassing the governor here in Arkansas, and and anywhere else for that matter, the governor, the mayor, the state representatives, congressmen, whoever you have to keep harassing and writing letters to and protesting and things like that to get anything done. That's what it's all about. Nobody protests for fun. I kind of tend to think that some of this generation, just does it for BS reasons. But all the protesting and fighting and stuff I've ever done was for nothing but seeking justice. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all y'all for coming in to join me and chat with me. Wandering Orphan, Old Lady O, Phyllis Davis, good to see you. John Pearl, good to see you. Like I said, give my love to Lisa and everything. And it's good to hear from you and everything. So, with that in mind, everybody, let's be kind to one another. You don't know what people are going through in their lives on a day-to-day basis. Just a simple hello, how are you? What's going on with you? How are you feeling? Those things can make the world a difference, and just smiling at somebody, because you don't know what somebody is going through behind closed doors, and you just don't know what they're dealing with and what they're struggling with. And we have so many issues with mental health and stuff. And when you're out here bullying people and being ugly to people and putting out false information about people and things like that, you're just adding to people's mental health issues. And you've obviously got mental health issues yourself. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. Be the change that you wish to see in this world. As Michael Jackson said, it starts with the man in the mirror. Peace out, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
What's happening, y'all? If you're looking for a sad true crime podcast, then get up off of that thing and boogie on over to the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast, where we give you the lowdown on all things true crime. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Catch you on the flip